Welcome to Filmmakers Therapy Couch. I'm Dami. In the spotlight, Valerie Scoon, a filmmaker who's also made a career as a Hollywood exec. I caught up with her for some Filmmakers Therapy.
I am, for the most part, been a behind-the-scenes entity, where if you saw the movie, I may have had a lot to do with it, but you would never know my name, because if I worked on a movie at Warner Bros, it's not my name that's on the movie, it's going to say Warner Bros. My name is Valerie Scoon, and I currently am a professor at Florida State Film School, where I was able to make this documentary called Grenada, Colonialism and Conflict. I think that I recognize if you understand your history, out of that comes all of our stories. And so when I went to Hollywood, which is where I spent most of my career, I continued that idea. And so I worked on Malcolm X when I was an executive at Warner Brothers. And a lot of Malcolm X's own journey was sort of recognizing, who he was when he was Malcolm Little and how he became Malcolm X was partly understanding his history. I was an executive at Harpo Films, which is Oprah Winfrey's film company. And again, it was sort of looking at the legacy of slavery and Beloved and the psychological legacy as well as the physical legacy of slavery as represented in Beloved. My path had a lot to do with reading and writing, because a lot of it is reading screenplays and then writing critiques of those scripts, basically, and how they could be improved. So the way I managed to open doors is by doing that work well, so that, but it is a behind-the-scenes labor as opposed to being a director, which is competitive in a different way. I think that there are more jobs out there for what's called development work, where you're a story editor, where you're reading screenplays, you're trying to find the best one, than there are necessarily for directors, where there's a finite number of movies that are going to get made, by any given studio, but there are thousands of screenplays that need to be read and analyzed. Shonda Rhimes, I actually met her when I was at Harpo Films, and it's been a while, but she was adapting a book for us back then. I don't think that book ever came to fruition. We never turned it into a movie. But just to point out that she was, that a lot of the work that you do in the early days is speculative, and it may not yield a result, but the idea is to keep making relationships and to keep learning along the way, and that the path is usually not very direct to where you're going to. So my advice would be to find a company or someplace where you actually have a connection, a passion for what product they do, and whether it means writing coverage or reading screenplays. Even if you do want to be a director, it's still a way in to getting to know people and making connections, and then leveraging yourself from that position, or leveraging yourself as a writer.
The common denominator to all types of media is storytelling, and is finding interesting characters. So chances are, if you're interested in someone as a character, someone else will be too. And I think your job as a director, producer, writer is to really pull out of your character what is so interesting about them, is to let them be so comfortable that they can just be themselves. Because I think a lot of ordinary people do very extraordinary things.